Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Structure. I am Elle Stone, aka the Ancient Ninja. It's been a minute since I've been on my channel. Had life happening, but of course, there's no shortage of things that I want to discuss. As y'all always know, if you watch my channel, um, I I have spreadsheets of topics that I want to discuss, things that are always coming to me, and stuff that I'm always feeling compelled to speak on. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different that I haven't done on my channel yet. I've talked about theology topics, philosophy, history, conspiracies. I've read government declassified documents. And today I'm going to be reading my first patent on here. Now, there's quite a few patents that I find interesting on the government website, and these are open for the public to look at. There's many of these that are on the patent website that are quite interesting, and they're not anything new. These patents go far back. The one that I'm reading is actually from 2002. So I want to bring these to light for a couple different reasons. One of them is to go ahead and put it out there into the algorithm so it naturally becomes something people start talking about. And another is just show people how far back these ideas go. You know, many people believe that we're just now entering this age of technology, that we're learning all these things, but the truth is the government has known about many of these things for a very long time, and a lot of what they know they lie about, and they say they don't fully know it or they haven't fully studied it, but the truth is they actually have. So you'll see in a lot of these patents that are published that these ideas are far back. And keep in mind, when something is patented, it doesn't mean that if it's patented, that it just was found out. Often an idea is put into execution, is thought about, etc., before the patent is officially made. And I know this because I've also patented things, and it's how patents work, okay? So keep that in mind when you're reading this, knowing that a lot of things that we're seeing and we're thinking, wow, this is so crazy, this is sci-fi, they've known about this. They've known about this for a long time. Some of these mechanisms are even ancient in origin. And it's important that we realize that, because that gets us that closer to understanding at least a spectacle of the truth that is out there. So today's patent that I'm going to be reading is US Patent 008867, Mind Personality Transfer Method. Now, this within itself is a very interesting patent. I'm going to put it up on the screen and you can read it along with me. I will also link in the bio where you can find it and read it yourself. So yeah, let's get into it. So this was patented on 7/11 2002. There is quite a bit about 7/11, and that is a whole other topic that I would like to get into another day, but the date 7/11 and the number 7/11 itself has a lot of biblical significance. So it's very interesting that this is the one that I choose to read first on here. But yeah, so this is a United States patent that is available on the government website, patented by, if I'm pronouncing the name right, Izumi Arai And as you can see, by all purposes, it is a government patent, full on, approved, classified. We'll just start at the beginning, right where it says, you can read along with me. This invention can permanently in the future develop minds and personalities of creatures which were considered in the past to decay and become extinct owing to aging and death by transferring minds and personalities of creatures to new clone bodies with preserving self-identity. So keep in mind when they're saying this, okay, this invention can permanently in the future develop minds and personalities of creatures which were considered in the past to decay and become extinct owing to aging and death. That they've been studying this. Okay, they've been studying death in the mind and personality and preserving life. Okay, and anyone that knows and is in the know knows that this is only the tip of the iceberg of how deep it, and this keeps going in and out and asking for my location. So if it goes out, just hang in there, it'll come right back. All right. This invention is particularly valid in the case that an invalid has little chance of recovery due to serious multiple organ failures. In the case, the general prostration or severe senility of the whole body makes urgent organ exchanges ineffective. In the case that it will not be long before an individual moves to new clone bodies on some other grounds, etc. My invention is the repetitive process of transferring central nervous systems and other systems of individuals and old clone bodies to new clone bodies. Keep in mind, I'm stressing this because I want people to read this for them to be like, oh my God, you're right. Because often reading these, it's like a little, you might be in your head like, what does that mean? This isn't a patent about clones, okay? This is a patent about transferring the consciousness into new clones. So that is implying that they already have the technology of cloning, and this is a new process that they can transfer the nervous system, because they're clearly having problems with the clone bodies decaying, right? So understand that this isn't like step one of, well, we clone an individual. No, cloning has already been figured out. They've already got that down. This is a method to perfect what they're already doing. Okay. Besides the process of transferring central nervous systems themselves to new clone bodies, as figure 1 shows, by inputting memories retained in original individuals in clone bodies to central nervous systems of new clone bodies beforehand, creatures can obtain existence bases of themselves in succession because memory itself can be regarded as the independent personality. This touches on subjects like MK Ultra. I'm not even going to get into certain names of celebrities that have stated that their memory has been taken away. Okay, so memory itself is the personality, and it's trying to say that this process is going to help keep that intact even when it's transferred to a new clone body. Many of organs, such as central nervous systems, peripheral nervous systems, and other systems, can enlarge memory capacities. Moreover, by establishing new active pathways, the originality worth of oneself can be formed. Remaking gray matters into chips, such as semiconductors, various integrated circuits, etc., makes nervous systems light and convenient. The information exchange between lots of brains behind a tiny skull and the construction of the new nervous systems can evolve central nervous systems as a whole. Creatures can maintain self-identity even if constituent elements of succeeding creatures are different from those of preceding creatures because creatures always exchange their constituent elements by respiration and metabolism. Now, this is essentially saying that it's allowing for, even if the new clone body has something that may be different from the original body, that transferring this method is not going to interfere with that. It's going to allow the person to maintain that same identity. Furthermore, the consciousness of oneself can maintain continuity in the case that the infant self is lasting to the adult self. In this case, that a particular self can put on weight and can lose weight, and in the case that the organs of oneself were injured in diseases, accidents, etc., and the self gets one's health back again. Namely, creatures can transfer themselves in succession to new clone bodies continuously and spaciously, even if succeeding creatures have different shapes, sizes, functions, constituent elements, etc. Therefore, with keeping self-continuity, I can create the existence of multiple arms and multiple legs by making the most of lots of other systems, in addition to nervous systems simultaneously. And by obtaining various new organs, I can extend individual facilities of creatures diversely and remarkably. So this method is a method that is allowing the clone body to be even more intact when transferring, because, and I don't know how I know this, but I know that in the transferring of the consciousness to the different clones that they have been doing, the clone bodies have been breaking down, and they sometimes come out deformed or messed up. There are people that talk about this online, y'all. I don't have a secret whistleblower that's talking to me. This is stuff that you can find out if you were open-minded enough to understand. But there has been talk that there's issues with the clone bodies coming out deformed or something happening. So they're saying by using this method, they can actually help fix that, especially if they're doing it from a baby to an adult. Okay. Now I want people to look at this next slide because I find it very interesting. What do these shapes look like to you? Because to me, even though this is the process, this is like a drawing of the process from 1 to 2. It's basically showing the transference of the consciousness through the clone. Looks a bit Masonic, does it not? Does it not have the same symbolism? Look at the shapes of that, okay? And I can't show my finger. My finger's not going to extend to the screen, but look at the shapes of that. They're just very interesting shapes, and the way that it looks. Okay, so mind personality transfer method. This is a continuation filed March 1st, 2001 and published in Japanese. This invention belongs to the field of biology and life science. Past ways of thinking. So far, minds and personalities of creatures were thought to collapse and die out, owing to aging and serious lesions of the body. The point of my invention. This invention transfers minds and personalities of individuals and clone bodies of creatures to new clone bodies. And thus, I can make creatures continue development permanently with ensuring creatures' existence spaces of themselves. The sift of minds and personalities of creatures to fresh clone bodies can maintain formal identity and substantial development of the individual forever. So it's important when you're reading this to understand it's not just transferring human consciousness into clones. They're talking about also maintaining the clones, right? Keeping the clones also going. So what does that tell you? That tells you we could be in a world right now of people that are not real. They are not real. Okay. My invention is especially effective in the case that an individual has a little chance of recovery due to serious multiple organ failures. In the case that general prostration or severe centrality of the whole body makes urgent organ exchanges ineffective, and in the case that it will not be long before an individual shifts to new clone bodies on some other grounds. Concise explanation of my inventive figures. The first figure is a picture overlooking central nervous systems, which combine in order to transfer minds and personalities and to amplify information. Brains, whose gene types are same, interchange various pieces of information one another across the boundaries of a tiny skull. Therefore, brains produce the further excellent brains which are gifted with newer engrams. In this way, these whole central nervous systems are making remarkable progress. 1 individual brains, 2 commissural fibers, 3 clone brains, the right, the left, the front. The effective method of my invention. I will explain this invention in detail. In order to transfer minds and personalities in individuals and clone bodies of creatures to new clone bodies and to maintain formal identity and substantial development of the individual eternally, this invention makes it possible to obtain immortal lives by repeating the process of transferring some parts of an individual, especially parts with central nervous systems, which take leading parts to new clone bodies. This is the attempt at living forever, never dying. And this is something they have been doing for a very long time. Okay. These are methods that they're just perfecting. That's why these are being put out there, because these are methods that they are perfecting. I shift central nervous systems in individuals and clone bodies of creatures to new clone bodies. Thereby, an individual can get more excellent and newer bodies, and so an individual can keep up and develop spirit and character of oneself. In the case of no injury in the head, it is important to secure blood flows from arch of aorta to internal and external iliac arteries. Then it is suitable to pump 15% of total cardiac output at a velocity of about 700 milliliters per minute through brachiocephalic, because I don't know these words, trunk into right common carotid and vertebral arteries. Vertebral, I have my accent, my country accent, don't allow me to speak like that. And into left common carotid and vertebral arteries. Systems of external carotid arteries and some related arteries are useful for making blood reservoirs. It is desirable to deal with variations and anomalies of blood vessels each time. Cerebral perfusion pressure is from 60 to 160 mmHg. The partial pressure of oxygen in the arterial blood should cover 50 mmHg. Plasma glucose concentration is from 70 to 120 milligrams per deciliter. The body temperature may be lowered to 16 degrees centigrade. It is important to preserve radicular arteries, including the artery of Adam Kiewitz, etc. I wonder what that is. It is essential to prevent ischemia. Blood flow must be regained in less than 20 seconds after ischemia should occur by any chance. The faces, including eyes, nose, etc., have another blood flow from systems of internal carotid arteries as well as systems of external carotid arteries. Therefore, these parts which adhere to cranial bones are suitable for forming and repairing plastically as the need arises after the transference to new clone bodies. Okay, so you guys did read that correctly. That's saying that when they're doing these operations, transferring the consciousness, and that if it doesn't work out, they can use plastic surgery to fix it. This is another reason why plastic surgery was made so popular. Okay, the reason why you have celebrities and people who are getting plastic surgery or supposedly getting it, because it is such a good way to cover up having. I just had tons of plastic surgery. Okay, because a lot of these people who are doing this, their organs are failing, not only because most likely the the breeding of the families and the things they're doing, but also because they're not good. And so they're literally destroying themselves from the inside out. All right. By securing blood flows from the subclavian, jugular, and brachioplastic veins to internal and external ileatic veins on both sides, and by securing lymph flows from lumbar lymph nodes and intercostal lymph nodes to thoracic duct and right lymphatic duct, body fluids return smoothly to the pump, which keep good circulation. Spinal cords are suitable for transferring to clone bodies together with spinal ganglia. It is appropriate to move with vertebrae. However, when something like severe osteoporosis is found, it is desirable to separate the parts of the outer layer of the spinal dura mater to epineurum wrapping spinal ganglia from vertebral bodies and vertebral arches, with maintaining smooth circulation so as to not cause edema. It is also pertinent to move and detach the remainder from the central nervous system so that the brains and spinal cord are not injured. And this is all a bunch of science mumbly jumbly, so it's important not to get lost when you're reading this. Like, I don't know what all that means. No one really does. and we're not there working on this stuff. I would never do this. But it's all just a bunch of fluff for them working on the human body and putting different organs and things together. So don't get lost by the vernacular. Hippocampal formation retains new pieces of information temporarily and reproduces these informations. The whole brain is necessary for fixation in remote memories and long-term retention. Declarative memories need limbic systems, including hippocampal formation, intertahenia cortex, formics, etc. Procedural memories need cerebral and brainstem, including olivary nuclei, etc. Commissural fibers such as corpus callosum, anterior part of the commissure, anterior posterior part of the commissure, blah, 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 a bunch of other scientific words, can combine individual brains with clone bodies since an individual is still alive. Whoa, that's crazy. Can combine individual brains with clone brains since an individual is still alive. Okay, that is actually crazy. Wow, that's insane. So they're saying that they have a way to combine both of them together. Gosh, I wonder what effect that is. This is crazy. All right, let's keep going. Commissural fibers combining neuron groups of the same gene types transmit information from the right to the left and from the left to the right. It is nice to use together new brains to which information has extended and healthy original brains of the individual. New brains to succeed to old brains in the case that old brains are severely injured by senility, brain atrophy, etc., and have no hope of recovery even by supplementation of the level of cells and tissues. New brains may settle down to the primary body whose regeneration is possible. New brains may settle down to the primary body whose regeneration is possible, and new brains may also lead a comfortable life in new clone bodies. When brains return to the primary body, it is convenient to supplement as a part of the new clone bodies as possible to the primary body. When new brains live in new clone bodies, the necessary minimum of the primary body can be moved to the new clone body if a new brain wants to use the original part of the old body. For a certain period of time, putting both old and new brains into operation simultaneously and transferring ring functions gradually from old brains to new brains make it possible to realize self-continuity as time passes without anxiety. Oh my God. Holy shite. This is insane. And how much of a person is left when the new clone brain decides, so a new clone brain can decide that it still wants a certain part of the old body? And it says it makes it possible to realize self-continuity as time passes without anxiety. Because I have heard that when this process happens, it really like messes them up for a period of time. Using together a lot of brains by combining a great many of specific areas and hemispheres with commissural fibers, association fibers, etc., can increase memory capacity with being free from small volume of the skull. It can even establish new active pathways. Whoa. Remaking gray matters into chips, such as semiconductors, various integrated circuits, etc., makes nervous systems light and convenient. By securing plenty of nervous systems such as basal ganglia, various nuclei, cerebral, brain stems, ganglia, etc., and by making the most of lots of other systems in addition to nervous systems at the same time, I can create the existence of multi-arms and multi-legs, which enlarges spatial self-continuity. Fresh brains. That's like some straight zombie talk. Fresh brains. Fresh brains. We'll find fresh brains. And that makes you wonder about the people that go missing and the sex trafficking, the people that go missing, blood donations, all this. It makes you think about all this stuff, and especially in the way that they're talking. Fresh brains can be brought up while coming into subsidiary operation with carrying these immature brains on one's back. Free combinations of brains brought up in various environments broaden the world of one's own. Free combinations of brains brought up in various environments broaden the world of one's own, which produces latest brains that have newly composed engrams. Incorporating these latest brains into central nervous systems once more leads to infinite development. They're saying using the brains of people that are different and putting them together helps someone become more rounded, quite literally cheating what it means to be a person. Okay. The significance of my invention. In this way, my invention permanently in the future develops minds and personalities of creatures which were considered in the past to decay and become extinct, owing to sensuality and death, by transferring minds and personalities of creatures to new clone bodies, with maintaining self-identity. This invention is particularly valid in the case that an invalid has little chance of recovery due to serious organ failures. And I think, yeah, this is just restating what we had read before. It will not be long before an individual moves to new clone bodies on some other grounds, etc. Transferring nervous systems and other systems and individuals and clone bodies of creatures to new clone bodies can produce more excellent and newer bodies and can continue to develop spirit and character itself. Creatures can self-identify even if the constituent elements of creatures are different from those of the preceding creatures, because in the first place, creatures always exchange their constituent elements by respiration and metabolism. Moreover, the consciousness of oneself can maintain continuity in the case that the infant self is lasting to the adult self. In the case, the particular self can put on weight and can lose weight as time goes by. And in this case, if the cells, tissues, and organs of oneself were injured or lost in disease, accidents, etc., and the self gets one's health back again. Okay, this is really, it makes you think about when you're seeing some of these celebrities right now that look like they're like dying, what exactly experiments are being done on them, and if this is part of what's being done on them. Namely, the self-continuity is preserved even if succeeding creatures have different shapes, sizes, functions, etc. The phenomena that gene types of constituted elements are the same is recognized even on the level of cells, organelles, etc. The consciousness of oneself formed out of memories emerges on the level of individuals. The consciousness of oneself is very difficult to recognize on the level of cells and tissues, which is hard to present to the level of organs. The fact that the conscious of oneself formed by memories emerges very clearly on the level of individuals appear even in identical twins. This invention can maintain formal identity and substantial development of the individual under consciousness of the same self by operating lots of identical organs synchronously and by transferring various functions continuously. Oh my gosh. So I'm not smiling because I'm like, wow. I'm smiling because it's just terrible to read this. Because to know how they even got this information means that they have been doing such testing on humans for so long to figure these things out, to even figure out that consciousness is formed by memories and that consciousness can't be recognized through cells and tissues, that it has to be formed within the memories, and that in order to maintain that identity, they have to basically like put stuff together all at once and do it continuously and like in the brain to keep the consciousness. This is a lot of human experiments done to even get to the level of inventing something like this. The consciousness of oneself can expand and contract in the passage of time and on the spatial level. The consciousness of oneself can expand and contract in the passage of time and on the spatial level. Consequently, both the infant self and the adult self can be connected as the same self. And so the spatial sensation of oneself can be extended freely on the occasion of handling transportation, such as automobiles. What does that mean? And the amount of babies they had to, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about it. My invention can develop the consciousness of oneself in the individual and creatures, preserving the identity by transferring minds and personalities of creatures to new clone bodies. Furthermore, uniting continuously and spaciously regenerated organs such as the healthy cells, tissues, organs, which have the same gene types in new clone bodies. And they can rejuvenate oneself and can improve facilities of oneself. In addition to these repetitive processes, by using jointly artificial materials, new energy systems, etc., I can create diversely evolving lives. They're trying to play God, is what they're trying to do. And this whole invention is because they've been having a hard time understanding the consciousness. Okay, because even if they have these new clone bodies, they're having a hard time understanding how to still maintain that level of consciousness, right? Because it's already, you think about us, it's already hard enough for us to remember. And if you look on my channel, I actually have a video where I go into the science of why we forget. So they've been trying to master remembering for a long time. And this invention is supposed to help them freely do that, to where they can transfer the consciousness without it affecting the individual or the clone's body. Okay. And this is 2002. Okay, so this is already happening. You gotta understand, this is something that's already done. And who knows who it's been done to? Who knows? This invention transfers minds and personalities of individual and clone bodies of creatures to new clone bodies, and thus I make creatures continue development permanently with ensuring creatures' existence basis of themselves, keeping who they are. In this way, with maintaining formal identity and substantial development of the individual eternally, I can rejuvenate and evolve structures and functions of individuals. By shifting some parts of an individual, especially parts with central nervous systems, to new clone bodies, an individual can get more excellent in newer bodies. Meaning they can only, they can only get better. So with each time they transfer, they must have been losing something before, and now with each time they transfer, they're getting even better at what they're doing. This is why they seem to know more, and they seem to be more awakened. It's not that these people are better. They're cheating. They're cheaters. They're liars. In this way, with maintaining formal identity and substantial development of the individual eternally, I can rejuvenate and evolve structures and functions of individuals. By shifting some parts of an individual, especially parts with central nervous systems, to new clone bodies, I already read that part, putting both old and new brains into operation simultaneously and transferring functions gradually from old brains to new brains make it possible to realize self-continuity as time passes without anxiety. So they're putting both the brains together after the person is ready for the new clone. Securing existence basis of oneself in succession and combining freely a great many of specific parts of central nervous systems and other systems by commissural fibers, association fibers, nerve fibers, etc., can increase memory and capacity with being free from small volume of the skull. Moreover, by establishing new active pathways and by producing more excellent and newer brains, I can enlarge and renew facilities of oneself, remaking gray matter into chips such as semiconductors, various integrated circuits, etc., make nervous systems light and convenient. So I'm wondering if this is meaning that not only that this might be too why people seem robotic, right? Because they're transferring their consciousness, combining their brains, and they're also not only doing that, but they're making even new pathways. And they could be combining this with AI. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point what they're doing. All right, and the last page. This is hard for me to read, y'all. I mean, it's not easy for me to read this stuff. I don't read this stuff like, wow, so cool, man. I read it like, oh my God, what world are we living in? What have they done to us? What's running our world? All the things that people just don't realize is happening because they believe it's so surface level, even though these patents are right in front of our face, just right in front of our face for us to see. By securing plenty of nervous systems such as basal ganglia, various nuclei, cerebral brainstems, ganglia, etc., and by making most of lots of other systems in addition to nervous systems at the same time, I can create the existence of multi-arms and multi-legs, which enlarges spatial self-continuity. Fresh brains can be brought up while coming into subsidiary operation with carrying these immature brains on one's back. Free combinations of brains brought up in various environments broaden the world of one's own, which produce latest brains that have newly composed engrams. Incorporating these latest brains in central nervous systems once more leads to infinite development. Creatures can maintain self-identity even if constituent elements exceeding creatures are different from those preceding creatures, because creatures always exchange their constituent elements by respirations and metabolism. I mean, it's saying that they can use also, like I said earlier, other people's brains to improve their own. They basically have learned to take the information that someone else knows and put it into their own brain, and then make themselves stronger and take their knowledge back. Before I ask, whose brains have they taken? What information are they learning? They're stealing. They're stealing people's consciousness. Furthermore, the consciousness of oneself can maintain continuity in the case the infant self is lasting to the adult self. In the case that a particular self can put on weight, it can lose weight as time goes by, and in the case that the organs of oneself are injured in disease, accidents, etc. And this self gets one's health back again, namely self-continuity, i.e. the consciousness of oneself, is preserved even if succeeding creatures have different shapes, sizes, functions, constituted elements, etc. And I'm wondering if that means that they're putting like consciousness into crazy looking creatures and bodies, and they're saying, oh, well, you can still maintain yourself. You can still be who you are, even if you're in a body that's mixed with a lion and a dog, The phenomena that gene types of constituent elements are the same are recognized even on the level of cells and organelles, etc. The consciousness of oneself formed out of memories emerges on the level of individuals. The consciousness of oneself is very difficult to recognize on the level of cells and tissues, which is hard to present on the level of organs. The fact that the consciousness of oneself is formed by memories emerges very clearly on the level of individuals, appear even in identical twins. So a lot of this, he's repeating himself because this is written in Japanese as well, and translated. Therefore, with keeping the consciousness of the same self, connecting various organs and obtaining new organs of which gene types are the same, they can extend sphere of activity in daily life. Consequently, beyond a low capacity of the past, I can develop the faculties of all creatures, including human beings, and create diversely evolving lives. So when you look at some of these celebrities who they seem like they can't really like do much, you know, they obviously have handlers. It makes you wonder how much of this is done to them. And also when it comes to, because it says the gene types, which are the same, excuse my yawning, the gene types which are the same. So they know gene types. They know who's similar in genes. So that means they could be looking for someone who is similar in genes to the person that they're trying to keep, which, like I said, this could explain all the missing people, all the stuff they're doing with blood, all the stuff they're doing with genes. You know, because on the outside they want it to look like one thing, but it's actually another. And a lot of it does point to this cloning. So there you go. That is a document on mind personality transfer method from 2002, stating her consciousness multiple times without it affecting the human body, the clone body. And they've got it down to an art. I mean, this guy isn't exactly saying, well, maybe I can do this. He's certain that he can do it. He's certain. He said, with this, I'm certain I can do this. So what are they doing? Who are they doing it to? Start asking questions, because these aren't things that they put patents on because they just want to put it out there and be like, ew, look at what we could possibly do. No, they're already doing it. Mm-hmm. And there's probably even more. Not probably, there is. Because as far as I know, they have perfected the brain. You know, they say, oh, we don't know much about the brain. We only know a little bit. No, they know everything. They have learned it so much to an art where they're now being able to transfer the brain. And how long have they been transferring it? Who are we looking at on the screen that's actually someone else? Is there a reason that these celebrities are skinny? They look like they're deficient. Are they experimenting on them? Keep asking questions, keep wondering, and look up for yourself all these patents. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. And by enjoyed, I mean absolutely hated and won't forget. You know, these things aren't easy to read. It's never easy to read seeing human law being violated in such a terrible way. And that's only the tip of the iceberg of the things that they're doing. These kind of patents are for people that are in power. Most people, they're not trying to maintain or transfer the consciousness of. Most people, they're just trying to get rid of. Whether they're harvesting their organs for these bodies, because you saw in the document, they need the organs. They need quite a few organs to be able to mix these together and experiment. And clearly that's how they're getting these hypotheses, is through all of these testing and all of this human experimenting. But this stuff, mind personality transfer, this is not for us. This is for them. All right. Well, that is it for today. I will be back. I'm hoping to start getting back on my channel and posting more. I want to read more patents. I definitely want to read more declassified documents. I just have pages of them. But more importantly, I want to go over more theology, philosophy, history, and everything that I talk about, whether I've done the research on it or I've read about it, this all comes from my thought process. I don't look at other people's talks and copy what they're saying or get my information from them. I try not to listen to many people that are talking about theology or spiritual things, because also I feel I have such a different perspective on it in many different ways. So yeah, be sure to like and subscribe, comment below and let me know what you think, and go read the document yourself. Share, tell your friends, and start talking about it. We must talk about it more because these are things that people aren't talking about. That's why they've gotten you so wrapped up in all of the politicals and the movie that is in them. But it's not going to be popular to talk about. Understand that. And just keep pressing, guys. Keep it pointing.